Hello and welcome to Mandobug Crafts, episode 136 live. What's up, everybody? My name's Amanda, but you may know me on the internet as Mandobug, and this is my crafty podcast where I share what I have been up to lately. In this episode, I've got crochet design, and a small fiber arts book haul. So if you guys are watching live, feel free at any point to ask me any questions or leave any comments about what I'm going to be chatting about today. And definitely say hi and let me know that you're here and hanging out with me this morning. I really don't know who's here unless they pop into the chat. And then if you're watching the replay, go ahead and leave a comment down below with anything that you'd like to tell me about or ask me about, and I will get back to you usually within the week. Okay, starting out with something I've learned. I learned a new crochet stitch, and this has to do with one of my works in progresses. No finished objects this week still, but you guys know I work on so many things at once that I go weeks without finishing anything sometimes. So this is the Love Shrug by Kim Francis Adams, who is Mocha of Unapologetically Mocha Crochet and Crafts, and she's hosting a crochet along for the Love Shrug, and here is what it is looking like so far. Oh, I see some of you in the chat this morning. Good morning, Lindsay. Good morning, Catherine. Good morning, Maud. I'm just showing off the Love Shrug. So her crochet along started a couple weeks ago, and she's actually decided to extend it through the rest of February as people are now just finding the pattern. So if you want to join along, it's still available for free in her Facebook group through the end of February. So I am using Hobbii Butterfly for this, which is such a silky, smooth, DK weight number 3 yarn that it is just falling apart on itself. And real quick before I get into what I learned about it, I will share that I'm now pulling from the inside. So when I started this gorgeous wrap, I started at the bottom and then worked my way towards the top. And then it got to the inside of my first skein, and I did not like the color at all. So I started from the outside, worked into the middle, and I got to this color. And I was it's just not for me in this colorway. No. I think it looks like a disgusting baby pink. Mocha described it, because she has the same colorway, she described it as like a beigey pink. I asked my partner about it. He's like, it is like the color of your skin, and he's pretty accurate about that. So this is going to be set to the side for something else. It could be used for like if I was going to make an amigurumi my skin color, this would be perfect, although it's kind of shiny for that. But I cut it out of the inside of this ball too. So I've got 2 balls worth, probably close to 50 grams here, I would guess. So I'm thinking it's going to be set aside for maybe a hat for my daughter, or maybe some gloves or something. It's just not a color for me, so I cut it out. So yeah, I'm now pulling from the inside from my second skein of Hobbii Butterfly. And so I finished the wrap in the size the pattern calls for. So I did the exact number of chains that it calls for. I did have to go down in hook size a millimeter. So I used a 4.5 where the pattern called for a 5.5, because I am kind of a looser crocheter. And then I started the border, but the border is only supposed to be on the top and the bottom, and then you put fringe on the sides. I just went ahead and started the border down the side that the fringe goes on, and I'm going to do it all the way around the entire shrug. And then I'm going to decide if I want to add fringe on the end or not. I'm not a super big fan of fringe in general. It's not super appealing to me, and not super, I don't really like wearing it either, but it does look nice in her original pattern. So I'm not fully sure what I want to do. But what I learned was this new stitch that goes along the border. Make sure you guys can see it. Here we go. That is the right side. I'm pretty sure. I can tell you for sure. I think this is, maybe I'm putting the border on backwards. It doesn't really matter because you flip the shawl back and forth, so there's no true like right side. I think this is the right side of the border. So this stitch is called the Flower Bobble border, and there's actually a tutorial on Kim's channel for it. I have it linked down below. It's her tutorial shows you how to do the chainless double crochet foundation row for the pattern, as well as this border in the pattern. So I followed her tutorial for the border. I actually watched it when she put it out, so I kind of had an idea of what to do when it came time to put this border on. What's really interesting about this flower bobble border is that it's like starting a star stitch. You pull up a loop in the next 3 stitches and yarn over, pull through, and chain one. But then the second half of the stitch, you're going back into those 3 loops and pulling up a loop, almost like you would for a puff, but you can't keep pulling up the same loop over and over, so you have to chain one in between. So you go in to the front of the partial star stitch and you pull up a loop, chain one, go back in, pull up a loop, chain one, and you're gathering all these chains on your hook. Then you pull through everything and then you start all over again. So it's interesting that it's called a flower bobble, because I feel like it's more like a puff, but because you have those weird chains in between the pulling up a loops, you really could call it either. But I think it's a really fun decorative border, and it was fun to learn something new. So let me catch up with all of you in the chat. And then I'll talk a little bit more about the shrug. Let's see, Maud, how are you doing today, Amanda? I'm doing pretty well. Lately I've been struggling to go to bed at a reasonable time, so I'm a little tired, but other than that, I'm doing pretty well. Thank you. How are you doing? The color change turned out lovely. It really did. And you can see I have more rows of this lighter color because that's where I joined. Actually, you can see it's exactly right here is where I joined. Well, there was a knot, actually. I think there was a knot here. And I don't like to crochet my knots in if they look funny. And then, so I cut it and joined. And then this is where I joined the second skein of butterfly in the same color. So I got more rows of this color. And then I think I have enough of this color to get all the way around with the bobble border. I got all the way around with plain, I think it was half double crochets maybe. And you can see that color on the ends. And now I'm going around doing the special stitch border. I think it will all be in this colorway. If I go back and do fringe, I'm thinking about pulling from the outside and doing the fringe in red. So it has some fun contrast. But that's if I decide to do the fringe. I'm still undecided at this point. Good morning, Marquita, and good morning, Lacey. Thanks for joining the live stream today. Maud, I'd call it vintage pink. Yeah, that feels like a good name for it too. But it wouldn't mesh too well with the other colors. I feel like it goes for some people. I really don't like pink. I never have, and I like all shades pretty much. The only pinks that I feel like I can do are like a mauve. Once you start adding the blue into the pink and it starts to turn purpley, then I can handle pink. If it's like a dusty mauve, dusty rose, those kind of pinks. But this is just, it's not for me. Hey, you're going to have to remind me of your name because I've already forgot Free-Handedly Made. But thank you. I love the hearts too. This is a really gorgeous design by Kim, the Love Shrug, which you can get it free in her Facebook group. I'm pretty sure her Facebook group is linked in the description below because I try to link to where you can get all of the patterns that I talk about down in the description box. So, and hers is in her group free. I think it will eventually become a paid for pattern. And hello, Lacey. Yes, I am looking forward to trying that stitch out. Yeah, it was a really fun new thing to learn and try. Catherine, you watched the tutorial too, and then watched it again when you went to make the border. Yeah, it's one of those things that whenever you try a new stitch, even just reading the description, even if the description is clear, it's still nice to see it done, to just have that confirmation that you are doing it correctly. So that was really nice. I'm doing all right. Finally had my booster. Oh, good. At least 2 days ago. It's probably all the side effects of getting it are wearing off by now. I'm a bit tired, but overall, it hasn't been too bad. That's good. That's great news. I'm glad to hear that for you. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining this morning. I love mauve. Yes. I mean, it's not my favorite, but it's how I can do pinks, and it's not it's kind of cheating because it's really more purpley than it is pink. That's about how pink I can get. Lacey's saying good morning to Kim, and Kim saying good morning back. All right, so look, I can control the comments, I swear. So that is my something I've learned and what I've been working on this week, and I love it. Like, Butterfly has amazing drape for acrylic. This to me is draping just like any natural fiber or even like a bamboo would drape, and so I'm really in love with it as an acrylic. I think as I mentioned last week, the only downside is it's so slippery. It does not like to stay together when you work with it. It is easier to work from the inside than it was the outside, but I still think it's worth figuring out how to manage the yarn because you get such an amazing effect with it. One thing I was looking at as I was trying it on is an other option, which I could still add the fringe for. So that's why I'm still not decided on the fringe yet. I like it bunched up like this because you can see all the colors. You can't see the hearts as well, but you can see all the colors. I want to make like a strap with a button that it can be buttoned together. I really like the way this looks. And the fringe would still look nice too. So I like the way this looks and the way that it wears for functionality. And like, this is very warm and I think it's really cute. You could wear it outside of a coat. You could tuck it inside of a coat. The only downside is you don't get to show off the amazing hearts when it's worn like that. So that's what would be nice about a strap is you could button it up when you wanted to and then unbutton it when you wanted to. So that's another thing that I've been thinking about doing with this wrap, but I've really been enjoying it. So that is something I've learned and my first work in progress. My other two whips, and technically there's 3 that I've been focusing on this week. 2 are cardigans and the other one is a secret, but I will talk about it briefly when we get there. So the Ice Cream Delight cardigan, this one has been making me think, trying to figure out what I want to do, because I mentioned to you guys that I was having issues with the gauge I got in my swatch and then the gauge that I actually got while making the cardigan. Let me catch up here before I move on. Oh, you're really scared to get your booster? Oh, well, that would make me scared too, but also it's a good thing that wasn't the case for you. I know it ranges from people to people how their body's going to respond, so I'm glad it wasn't worse for you, even though it may be worse for others. But yeah, that would make me scared too. I love mauve, mad, dusty rose, and some hot pink. Get the hot pink. You can have all the hot pinks, Lacey. I don't want them. Sometimes I can go magenta pink, but like I said, it's because that blue starts seeping in there. You are going to do the Twisty Fringe. So Lacey sent me a tutorial, and it's from Nastasia. I don't remember. That's part of her YouTube channel name, but I don't think that's her full channel name. She has a tutorial for a couple different fringes you can do, and there is one that you can crochet on as you go, and you create these long twisted fringes. You pull up a loop, twist it around a bunch, fold it back up on itself, and then keep crocheting, much like you would in weaving projects when you have all the fringe at the end of your woven project and you twist them and then they twist back on each other. It's like that, but you crochet it as you go, which is really cool, and I've never seen that done before. I love how that looks, Amanda, bunched up around your neck. I know, right? I really like the way that looks. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up just doing like either a single crochet, couple rows for the strap with a buttonhole and a loop, or maybe half double. I'm really just going to wing it because it's not going to be too difficult. Good morning, Acela. All right, so the Ice Cream Delight cardigan. I put a little bit of work into it this week. I showed you guys last week that I had seamed it all together. So the Ice Cream Delight cardigan is the adult version of the Ice Cream Party Cardi I put out for kids, the children's version. So I'm working on an adult version with Hobbii Tweed Delight, which I'm loving this yarn. It's a really nice single ply. It gets a little thick and thin at spots. It's full of this gorgeous viscose tweed. So it's 85% wool, 10% acrylic, 5% viscose. And so I started adding ribbing. Do I have to be careful because I don't have a stitch marker in my live loop, which is best practice. You should do that. So my problem with this cardigan so far has been that in my swatch, I got 14 half double crochets per 4 inches. In this cardigan, as I made it, I actually got 15 stitches per 4 inches. So let's do visual representation. So let's say this is approximately 4 inches. This is exaggerated, but let's say, okay, this is 4 inches. I should have been getting 14, but I got 15. So that means that the 14 stitches that should be this big, the 14 stitches are now this big. I'm about this much too short per 4 inches, which doesn't seem like a lot. But when you look at a 32-inch bust, for this 2-inch of Positive Ease sweater, it should be a finished measurement of 34 inches. So let's say we take 34 inches divided by 4, it's almost 9. It's between 8 and 9, right? So I am this short times 8 to 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm about 2 inches too small for what it's supposed to be. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away when you're working with worsted weight. So this is a worsted weight. I forgot to mention that. This is a number 4 worsted weight yarn. When you're working at worsted weight or above gauge, being off by 1 stitch per 4 inches matters a lot more than when you're working in fingering weight or sport 1 or 2 weight yarn. The 1 stitch that you're off is so tiny. If you're off 8 times, maybe you're off by a half an inch, maybe an inch. When you're working with worsted weight, if you're off by a stitch, you're off by inches, which on a tight fitted pattern is really going to mess you up. So my cardigan is supposed to be a 34-inch bust closed at the V-neck, which I'm still working on the ribbing, so it's not done yet, but it's not. When I measure this with the pretend ribbing on that's not on yet, it's measuring exactly to 32 inches. It's supposed to be 34. I am a 32-inch bust. It is my exact size. That's not what I wanted. So going forward with this design, I have to decide, do I change the gauge? Because I do like the stitches per inch that I'm getting for this fabric. Do I change the gauge and rewrite the entire pattern? That's going to change. My row gauge is fine. It's my width gauge that's the problem. It's going to change anywhere in the pattern that has to do with width. It's going to change the back chain for the back panel, the front panel, the sleeves, the decreases, all of it. Or, and this is what I think I'm going to do, is I'm actually going to keep the gauge that I had, the 14 stitches to the inch, and I'm going to swatch with bigger hook sizes until I get 14 stitches to the inch, and I'm going to recommend that hook size instead of the hook size that I used that gave me the 15 stitches to the inch. It's a very minor thing, and you really should swatch all patterns that you're going to be making to be fitted, because people are going to use different hooks to get the gauge that they need, but I'll feel better recommending the hook size that gets me the gauge the pattern recommends, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm going to do. The only problem with all of that is that this cardigan doesn't fit me the way that it's intended to, so I feel like I really can't use it for photography because it's going to give the impression that this cardigan is more fitted than it's intended to be. So that I haven't quite figured out yet. I don't know if I'm going to make another one for photography in the correct gauge, or if I'm going to see if I can't get one of my testers to allow me to use their photos for promotion so that it can be shown being worn the way that it's intended to. Because I really don't want to make an entire another sweater, and I really don't want to rewrite the entire pattern at the gauge that I'm getting. So that's all that. Before I catch up with you guys in chat, I'll show you what I got done. So I added the slip stitch ribbing to the cuffs. I love it. I love the length. It's ideal. It's nice and stretchy. I can pull my sleeves up, no problem. So it's a nice fitted sleeve, but also there's room for pulling your sleeves up to get dirty if you need to. And then I added the ribbing to the bottom. So there's ribbing around the bottom of the cardigan. And then I started adding the ribbing around the front panel. So I've got my way up my neck here, and I'm coming back down the other side. And once I get to this marker is when the buttonholes start. And because this is so tight, I really have to like get it situated perfectly to fit. But once the ribbing's added to this side, they should start overlapping at the end of the V-neck. And then there will be buttons all the way down the side. But this is a very, very snug fitting cardigan because it is exactly my body's measurements to a T, which is tighter than I want. But that's what I get, I guess. I'm not really sure why my swatch was so far off from the actual pattern. My best guess is A, this yarn is a little thick and thin in spots, so that may have affected it in a way that I didn't expect. And then B, I might have measured my swatch before it was dried completely. With this being 85% wool, wool expands when it's wet and it will shrink back up when it's dry. So it could have been expanded larger and not completely dry, like slightly damp, and it was still larger than its final piece. So those are the reasons I think that it was off. It was a surprise to me. But also, I found these buttons. I found the perfect buttons that I'm going to be putting on the cardigan. So the pattern calls for 3/4 inch buttons. These are 13/16, which is pretty dang close to 3/4. I got them online, possibly for something else, and they didn't work out. And so I've had them in stash, and I just love does it say on them? They're all a little different and unique, and they're like this dark brown. I don't know if they are horn or faux horn. It doesn't say. It just has a style number that was handwritten. It looks like H1275 from Benno's Buttons in the color black. But it's really, the back is black, but the front is like this horn-looking brown with these grooved textures. And I think they're going to be perfect. Because they're not a harsh black, I feel like it blends in nicely with the sweater. So I did want to share that too. So let me catch up with you guys. We're saying hello. Hi, VJ. I hope you're having a great morning, afternoon. Oh, that makes sense. Me want mine so bad. I know Lacey's working on her back panel. And Acela, oh yikes, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I think you're talking about the gauge and working with worsted weight and larger, and how 1 stitch per, and it's not 1 stitch per inch, it's 1 stitch per 4 inches. It really can throw you off. I'm starting to believe that is why most patterns have 4 inches of ease, because it has this kind of built-in wiggle room for if you can't get gauge exactly. If you're getting a fabric that's a little tighter, you are closer to like a 2-inch ease finished object. And if you're getting something looser, you're getting something closer to like 6, which is still a nice, comfy, slightly oversized cardigan. And then if you happen to hit the 4 inches exactly, that's a really nice fit too. But this pattern I wrote with 2 inches of ease. So if you're off by 2 inches, you get something too small. And so I think going forward, I'm going to keep my patterns at about 4 inches of ease in case there's a struggle to hit gauge, especially with worsted weight. So I'm learning as I'm going. Everybody's saying hello. Oh, and saying hi to, okay, so Nisi, that's right, Nisi. I don't know why your name escaped me. Oh, I need to get to work on mine. So Stacy is asking, so does it mean you'll frog your sweater? I thought about it because I mean, I can wear this. It's just not the way that the pattern was intended to be worn. And I'm not a super big fan of tight fitting sweaters, although it honestly right now it is comfortable. I just don't think it's anything I would ever button up and have so tight against my body. But wearing open, I could definitely see myself doing that. But I don't think I can frog this at this point. It seamed already, so I would lose a lot of yarn having to cut through those seams. And because this yarn is the single ply, slightly fuzzy nature, it doesn't like to be frogged. I did frog the front panel and redo it 3 times, so it can be done. But when you undo it, it starts to kind of stick to itself. And the more you undo it and redo it, it starts to pill. So having already ripped it out and reused this yarn 3 times, I think that I'd be putting quite a bit of stress on this yarn before I even get to wear it as a sweater. So I don't think the yarn could handle it at this point. So I won't be frogging this sweater, but I did, not doing any math, just totally guessing on how much yarn I would need to make this. I way overestimated, and I might actually have enough to make an entirely second sweater. So, but I really don't want to make another one. I want to design new patterns. So it's still something I'm letting myself ruminate on in the back of my mind. I will get busy on mine and get my sister to take good pictures for you. Thank you, Lacey. That would be great if I could use Tester's photos instead of having to redo my own. Because, yeah, I just don't want to mislead people with such a ill-fitting cardigan. It's not really ill-fitting, it's just not the way I intended it to. Some people like very tight-fitting clothes. I'm just not one of them, and that's not how this pattern was intended to be worn. Silly question. Will blocking give you the SPI? So, stitches per inch. I also thought about this too. With wool, highly wool dominant yarns, this 85% wool, like I said, when it's wet, it stretches out. I could stretch this out and pin it in place at the stitches per inch that I wanted to. That way, when it dries up, the pins hold it and it can't shrink and it dries stretched out. That is something I've considered just to increase long-term wear for myself, but I haven't tried it yet. I think I am going to give that a try once I've finished the ribbing. And if that's the case, I may be able to use it for photographs after all. Because really, it's not that big of a stretch, 1 stitch per inch. You're stretching 32 inches out to 34. That's not really, and you can see that when I try to close the cardigan, I have to pull it, and it's stretchy already on its own, but I have to kind of pull it around to the front to be able to get it to close. So I might be able to pull that off, Estella. Yeah, that's great thinking. It looks so good on you. That's a shame. It will look good over like a tank, and that will make it not so snug around the shoulders and arms. Yeah, and that's why, like today, I purposely wore a tighter fitting shirt. So my sleeves are tighter fitting, so I don't have a bunch of fabric bunched up in my arms or shoulders or even around my midsection. And I would have to wear it this way. I would have to wear this sweater with a tight fitting shirt as well, which you would have to do with any. I mean, they sell fitted cardigans in the stores. I know you've bought them. It just wasn't my intention. I keep forgetting swatching includes washing. Yes. Yep. You like, if you don't, that's questionable, especially if you're working with wool. It's really, really good practice to measure your swatch before, wash it, and measure it after, because that's going to help you know, as you're making the piece, is it going to change? Like, oh, it looks small, but I remember it grew, so it will stretch when I wash it, versus being surprised at the end. Especially the stitch pattern too, not just the fiber content, but the stitch pattern. I knit the Beekeeper cardigan by Marie Green, and it has this really fun dropped stitch in it. Well, it's not dropped. It's, gosh, it was so long ago. It has like a loop. I forget what she called it, but it has like a skipped stitch, and then you knit one below to pick it up. And when you block that, and the yarn I used was 30% bamboo from Viscose, my sweater grew in length with blocking considerably. So it's like a best practice kind of thing. Yeah, I am amazed. No, you are a smart cookie. You should not be amazed. I'm not surprised that you knew that. Spike stitches, kind of like that, Lacey. This was a knit cardigan, so it's kind of like spike stitches in crochet, kind of. There was a specific name for it in the pattern. I just forgot. So yeah, so that is the progress on the Ice Cream Delight. have been filming the tutorial as I go. I might have to revoice over the whole thing because I talk about specific stitch counts that, well, actually, no, they wouldn't change, because that was the other thing I had to consider is I've been filming this the whole time too, and I thought about changing the gauge. I also thought about just changing the amount of ease, which would push all the patterns over. So instead of this being the size recommended for a 32-inch bust, it would be recommended for a 30-inch bust. But that would mean I would have to revoice over my whole tutorial too. So there are just a lot of options for me, and I'm trying to find the one that works the best and is the least amount of redo work. But yeah, so this is the Ice Cream Delight cardigan. So close to done. I just have to finish the ribbing and put the buttons on, and probably I blocked the pieces before I seamed them, which is a recommended technique as well. But I might just go ahead and reblock the whole thing, trying to hit that 14 stitches per 4 inches. So, oh, and then I'll also know how much yarn I used, so I can estimate yardage for the rest more accurately for the other sizes. All right, so the next work in progress is my other cardigan I've been working on. Why I'm designing 2 cardigans at the same time? Because I'm impulsive and I don't stop myself. Even though I know it's a bad idea, I do it anyways. It gets me excited. It also makes me make a lot of mistakes, but that's okay. So this is my love right now. This is the Everyday Swing cardigan. Oh, I'm like looking for the skein to show you guys the label, but it's not in here. I forgot. I have the labels in here. This is Stardust Fiber Studio Delphinus Sport 100% Superwash Merino in the Pumpkin Queen colorway, which is a colorway that was dyed up based on my favorite color, and it's exclusive to the New Knittery. I actually went up to the New Knittery because I'm leaving my very part-time position with them. So I was training the owner on how to do what I was doing from home, and I brought my cardigan up to show her, and I brought that hank and I showed her the white spots in it, and she said, "Give me that, we can get that fixed." So I left that up there with her, and she said Stardust Fiber Studio is really great about replacing any yarn that may have some unexpected defects within them. So that's great news, and that's why I don't have the hank, because it's up at the New Knittery. So I have been working on the forever ribbing on this. So the Ice Cream Delight cardigan has slip stitch ribbing, where you slip stitch in the back loop loosely back and forth. This one, because it's sport weight, which is a number 2, it's much finer of a yarn, and slip stitching is much tinier and more time consuming. So I decided to go with the single crochet in the back loop only ribbing. And it's a nice stretchy ribbing. It's not as stretchy as the slip stitch, and it doesn't look as much like knitting like the slip stitch does, but it still gives a nice ribbing to it. So I did tell you guys how the more recent yarn that I got is lighter colored than the first shipment that I got. So you can see that difference in color on my front ribbing panel here. And it's fine. Like, honestly, it blends in when it's folded out the way that it's intended to be. So it's noticeable, but I'm okay with it. I don't think it's noticeable in a way that it's like, ooh, what's wrong with your sweater? But because this front ribbing panel is 5 inches wide, it's taking forever. It's about, I think, 24 stitches. And I do have a stitch marker here because I don't want this work coming unraveled, because it does take so long. So let me stand up so you can see how it's looking. So it's nice and swingy. So once those front panels come around, this folds open on itself and it drops down in the front. And there's my back. And I love, 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 love how it's turning out. Now, because of the weight of the yarn, as I apply this ribbing around the entire front of my sweater, it pulls down. So as it attaches, it will actually, sorry, my camera's backward and it always throws me for a loop. It will start to pull up as it goes around the curve of my neck. So yeah, I'm not quite sure if this is going to show on the outside or not when all is said and done, because it does like to curve that way. So you might see both, although ideally I wish you would only see this part. I won't really know until I get all the way around, but I do think it's going to end up laying like this where some of that inside is shown, but that's okay too. But yeah, so I'm working on adding this all the way around, and it's just very slow going. I started down here, and I'm just ribbing my way all the way up, but I think it looks so nice. It's nice and stretchy. Look at that. Oh, that's lovely. So yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of getting through this one as well. So both of my cardigans are very close to done. Both of them are 95% written. They have minor details that need to go into them before I can send them off to my tech editor. And then, yeah, eventually I'll be needing testers. But you guys know, I send out an email to my testers newsletter first, and then I announce it on here, and then I'll go to social media if I need more spots filled. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this week. This week. I really like the cardigan like this without the front panel too. So I was surprised by that. Because I know once this is all done, I'm gonna love it because of how much front fabric there is. You can really like close it and hide in it. Whereas if this panel wasn't there, I couldn't do that. But I also kind of liked it without the panel too. So I don't know, maybe there will be another pattern similar but different in the future. Let's see. Do you have a friend or maybe a teen that would fit your finished piece better? I also thought about that too. If I could actually get someone with like a 30-inch bust to model that sweater that I made for me would also be ideal. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but I bet I know somebody that size. Why? Because it's something, I guess, in my DNA that just gets me to do ridiculous things, even though I know I'm not supposed to. At least they're safe, ridiculous things that don't hurt other people. It's so pretty. I love that orange. Thank you. I really love this orange too. It's a nice, fun, bright pop of color. It is the brightest thing in my wardrobe, but that's because people don't generally tend to like to wear orange, so it's difficult to find orange things in the store. When I find it, I buy it though. Glad you were able to return that yarn with the white stripes. Yes, I was. So that was very exciting. I'm the kind of person that would just keep it and use it for something else. I know that's probably not the best way to go about it, but I don't know. I just happened to mention it and the owner was like, no, let's get this fixed. So that was cool. I didn't know there was slip stitch border. Oh yeah, Lacey, yeah, on this. You could sub the single crochet if you want. I mean, that's just the way that I intended the design to be. But it doesn't have to be that way. You could easily sub single crochet in the back loop ribbing. It'll just look slightly different. In my experience, I've found, like, because this is the single crochet ribbing and this is the slip stitch ribbing, the stitch ratio is the same. When you're applying, you're still slipping twice into the body of the piece that you're applying to. The only difference is that the slip stitch ribbing row gauge is smaller, so it condenses tighter, right? You have a tighter fitting cuff that's just as stretchy. Whereas with the single crochet in the back loop only, it's still a tighter fitting cuff, but had this been slip stitch ribbing, it would shrink down even more, but it still stretches the same. So you could, in my experience so far, I've found that you can easily just pop those, substitute them for each other, single crochet or slip stitch ribbing, when it's applied. And depending on what the ribbing's used for, if it's like wrists or the band on a hat, it should be fine. It looks like a design element. Are you talking about the changing colors or this part showing? This dreamy border and that dream hypertonal yarn is just so dreamy. Yes, very much a highly tonal yarn, almost variegated yarn, a hypertonal, if you will. Can't wait to make this wing, Cardi. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, I did a little Instagram reel and TikTok of how the fronts swing, and I just love it. Oh, I was telling you guys, I took this up to the new knittery, and I was showing the owner, and she goes, I'm surprised you put, let me back up. I'm surprised you put ribbing at the bottom. You didn't need to. You could have just left that off. And she's totally right. that ribbing at the bottom is pure aesthetic, and it brings it in a little bit, but almost it would be better without it. So that was something that I didn't even think about because it just was always there in my mind. Like, oh yeah, put ribbing on the bottom, but you could totally leave that off, just crochet a couple more rows to make it the length that you want it, and then skip that ribbing. But thank you, Stacy. Oh my gosh, it's going to be gorgeous. Thank you. My favorite thing about this cardigan is the fit. It's a top-down seamless raglan, and it has modified increases so that it fits better, in my experience, than a traditional raglan increase. It's contoured to the different areas, which means your rate of increases does not stay constant in those raglan increase spots. It changes at the right place at the right time, which was a lot of math to do. Like, you should see my spreadsheet because it's different for every size. Like the smallest size, you are increasing out so from let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit. So your armhole depth, where you split in your yoke, the armhole depth, when you are looking at a 32-inch bust, and then as you go up in sizes, let's say 32 to like 36, the armhole depth grows very slowly throughout the sizes. You're looking at maybe 2 to 3 inches in growth between the smallest size that I offer and the largest size. But when you talk about the circumference of the width of your crossback, the width of your front bust, the upper arm circumference, they change very drastically. They start getting much wider in a smaller depth. And so the rate changes a lot quicker for the larger sizes than it does the smaller sizes. So in my spreadsheet, I had to break out the sizes at the point that the math told me, hey, we have to change increase rate here. So I'm like, okay, so this one stops here, and then this one stops here, and this one stops here. And so it is also broken up in the pattern that way, which difficult to wrap your mind around when you're writing it, but super easy to follow because you just go, okay, I'm on row 50. All right, where's the next spot for my size, kind of a deal. So, but I think it's worth it. You don't have to seam anything. You can try it on as you go. It fits the way it's supposed to. This pattern has been my more successful concept to creation out of my designs lately. Just imagine your eyes turning into hearts like an animation. Me too. You should call that your hide and seek cardigan since you can hide away in it. Yeah, definitely. You can hide in it. I love being able to hide in cardigans. It's just so cozy that, like, if I lean back on my couch, like, oh yes, I'm in a blanket. And it's not going anywhere, which I also love. I love both Cardis. Thank you, Marquita. How did you finish the bottom of the swing cardigan? It's a single crochet in the back loop only ribbing. So the half double crochet goes down the body. And then when I got down here, I did the applied back and forth single crochet in the back loop ribbing. I call it applied ribbing. Some people call it ribbing as you go. Same thing, but the single crochet in the back loop. I will do it per the pattern. I need to get more comfortable with slip stitch ribbing in case I want to incorporate it more. I just have a whole lot of border. Yep. This one's single crochet. So that's not as bad when you look at how much ribbing you're adding, but it is sport weight, so it's slow. Luckily, the border on the Ice Cream Delight it's 2 inches on the wrists and the bottom, and then only 1.5 inches wide. You're talking 6 or 8 stitches versus 24. So it's not as bad. It's worth it, and it goes quicker than you'd think because it's worsted weight, but still a lot slower than the body went. I love the bottom ribbing, looks finished. And that's what it was in my mind, is to give it this like finished look. But also, like, if it wasn't there, it would still wouldn't look bad. It's just a different aesthetic. Oh my gosh. I had to lift up on my calves to do that. And my calves are really sore. I'll talk about my workout at the end in our Let's Chat section, but it's my new workout program has been killing me. So I have one more work in progress that I'm briefly going to mention, but I can't show it to you guys yet. I'm not ready. So in this bag, which I know it's got pink all over it, but I do like the doodle flowers. So I did buy this fabric and I do use it. I have a secret project in here that I'm super excited about. So I will tell you that it uses Hobbii yarn, 2 different Hobbii yarns. It is a Mosaic crochet cowl, and I'm going to be hosting a crochet along for it in March. So I've got the pattern mostly written. I've got it charted. I have to do the actual writing out part, get it tech edited. But it should be, I'm like, this is my full focus for this coming week. Should be done by the end of the week, ready for tech editing, and I'll be able to tell you more about it when I'm ready to announce and launch the crochet along. So, oh, and I'll tell you that the yarn is fingering weight. It is a super fine #1 fingering weight yarn for both of them, but it's worth it. But I also just ordered more yarn for a worsted weight version that will be coming out after this one. So tentatively, I think I'm going to offer the pattern free during the crochet along, and then it will be a pay for pattern when the crochet along ends. I'll probably host it for about a month. I don't have the dates yet, but I love this pattern so much. It's so exciting. Like, I hyper focused on it one night, learning how to do mosaic crochet charts. And I didn't talk about that as something I've learned this week because I can't share the project. So when I can share the project, I'll talk more about learning mosaic crochet. But one night after the kids went to bed, I just was like, ah! and learned all about designing with mosaic crochet. So I'm very excited with this one, and I can't wait to show you guys. But it has to be a secret for now, at least for another week, maybe 2. That bag is adorable. Thank you. Yeah, I got into sewing for a little while, and I learned how to make box bottom zipper bags. I actually, back when I was doing this, reached out to the designer of the pattern and asked her if I could make a video tutorial because she just had a picture-for-picture tutorial on her blog. She gave me permission, and then I never made the tutorial. So bad, but thank you. Sounds like fun. Yes, I love it so much. I'm really, really, really pleased with how this one's turning out. Amanda and her deep dives. Yes, I saw a TikTok, you guys. I've been spending more and more time on TikTok, and I saw one that was talking about people who pick up new hobbies and then they never touch it again, and then pick up another one, never touch it again. And somebody in the comments had said, you are not addicted to like all these hobbies, you're addicted to learning something new. And I was like, oh, that's me. That's what it is. I'm addicted to learning new things, which is why I'm all over the place all the time. If it's not new, I start getting bored. And once it becomes repetitive, Mosaic, color me intrigued. Yes. Oh, I cannot wait to share with you. I think you'll like this design. I really do. Good times. Thank you. I didn't know you could sew. Oh yeah, like very basics. Like I hem all my pants because I'm 5'2" and I have a hard time finding pants in the right size until I learned that petite does not mean small. It also means short. So they make clothes that are the right length for me that are also wide enough for me that I didn't know that existed. But general sizes, like Mrs. sizes, they're way too long for me. So I hem all my pants. I can make a basic box bottom bag. I've made some fancier purses. I made a quilt, and I've tried to make some garments. I think like my podcast episodes, if you go back, I think around episode 10, I made a corset that I ended up giving to my mom. But yeah, so I can do some very basics. TikTok is so dangerous, right, Lindsay? TikTok has a way of, once the algorithm gets to know you, it starts calling you out, and it's kind of scary. I'm addicted to getting the stuff to learn new hobbies. Yes. I can definitely see that too, because shopping for supplies for new hobbies is really fun and exciting. Petite means short. I didn't know that for years, right? Why is this thing that petite means like tiny, like really skinny? Because I'm at the smaller end of adult sizes because I'm a smaller, like I said, I'm 5'2", I'm a smaller person. But I didn't know that petite also meant short. And you can get pants for people that are short and have thick thighs. I didn't know that. Estella, I remember you made a baby thing. Oh yeah, so I have a quilt that I had started making before I had my first child. And that one's still unfinished in a box in my shed because I messed up the top stitching on my sewing machine and I just didn't want to undo it and redo it. And then the baby was born and now it's so many years past. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But yeah, I've made a few things here or there. The one thing that I've sewn that I use all the time is I made this like long tube with stretchy stuff at the ends and it has a handle. And I put reusable plastic bags in there, like from the grocery store. They go in, they come out, they go back in. I use that almost daily. There are worse addictions. People say there are process crocheters or product crocheters. You are a creative crocheter. My favorite part is figuring out a new design. Then I am bored when I make it. Yep. I am also addicted to that part too. I come up with a lot of ideas, and some of them it's just fun to come up with the idea and I don't actually want to make it. And that's something I'm learning about myself. Oh yes, Lindsay, I forgot all about that. The Quilted Diaper Bag. So there's a really cool pattern by Swoon that is it called? I think it's called the Belle Baby Diaper Bag. And my friend asked me for her baby shower gift to make her a custom baby bag. So I found this really cool diaper bag pattern. She went shopping for mermaid themed print and I sewed this amazing diaper bag. And that's probably the most intricate project I've ever made. But the pattern by Swoon it's an indie pattern design company. And I found they're more detailed in their instructions, unlike the McCall's big box store sewing patterns. It has like step-by-step, very detailed instructions so that at no point was I lost. It's just really expensive to sew things from scratch. Just like with knitting and crocheting, the supplies are very expensive and it takes a lot of hours of labor. So I think that diaper bag, all in all, not labor included, was close to $300. So, take with that what you will. Gloria Vanderbilt has great petite sizes. Oh, I've never heard of that, but it sounds like a designer. I'll have to check it out. I don't go clothes shopping very often. I love quilts, but I know that I would hate making them. I wish I would love it. I made a crochet bag thingy. What do you mean you made a crochet bag thingy? Like you quilted a crochet bag thingy? I want pictures, Lacey. I want pictures. I enjoyed quilting, but because I'm not doing it anymore, or frequently at all, I learned it's because I enjoyed learning how to quilt. And now I know how, and now I'm done. I really struggle with the repetitiveness of big projects, really need some projects on the side when I do that. I'm the same way. I think that's how I really got into designing, is there's things that I want to make that there's not patterns for, but also I really enjoy the challenge of it. That learning process, the discovery process, that's what really excites me about it. You need to watch Fiber Hustle, Amanda. They are a couple, Chip and Aaron. Aaron knits and crochets and Chip quilts, and they are super funny. I'll have to check that out, Lacey. Thank you for the recommendation, Fiber Hustle. I think you've told me about this channel. VJ says, my middle name is Question. I want to learn. I feel that to my core, VJ. I really do. Crafty friends are the most generous. Yeah, well, I mean, I was paying to enjoy that too, right? Like it's a monetary gift and a gift of labor of love, but also I enjoyed learning how to make that bag. So I was also paying for that. So for me, it was worth it. But yeah, if you are on a really tight budget, there's not room to have that kind of enjoyment. Like sewing is a very expensive hobby and it's not as easy to find budget-friendly ways to sew clothing, because like you would have to start thrifting used fabric in order for it to be an affordable hobby, which is unfortunate. You crocheted one of those plastic bag dispenser things you sewed. Yes, yeah, they're great. I love those. I could see a crochet version. Probably I joined their bingo even on New Year's Eve. Who's bingo? Am I missing something? I stream through StreamYard, right? So sometimes I think my comments come out of order. I love learning new things, but for some reason, I'm apprehensive about knitting. No, I totally get that because I was there too. So this is what I likened it to when I was teaching beginning knitting and beginning crochet. if you already know one, it's 10 times harder to learn the other because you have these preconceived notions about what it's supposed to be like. And while they're related, it's yarn and a tool to make a yarn fabric. They are so different. You have to throw everything you know out the window. And unless you have someone helping you understand that and you're teaching yourself, it can be a very hard and frustrating thing. At least it was for me. I quit trying to learn to knit several times over a couple of years because I didn't seek a class. I didn't seek a in-person help. I tried to teach myself off videos, and I was trying to apply what I knew about crochet to knitting, and that was making it difficult to do. Like I struggled to learn to knit because I knew how to crochet. That was a problem. Watching people come in to take beginning knitting who were crocheters and who knew nothing, the people who knew nothing picked it up faster than the people who knew the other craft. Because the same goes for crocheting. People who knew how to knit and were becoming crocheters, same thing. They struggled to pick it up because they already had this muscle memory and this preconceived notion of what it should be like. And they don't mesh. You have to throw it away and build the new muscle memory and the new understanding of this other way to make yarn fabric. I knit, but learning new things with it very slowly. I was the same. Well, so I learned slowly, but I also was attracted to difficult things. So I think my third or fourth project, Lindsay, who's here with us today, knows because she did it with me. Because she's actually one of the reasons I was able to learn how to knit. I met her through work, and I crocheted and she'd knit, and we both wanted to learn more about the other one. And she helped me finally get over that hump and become a knitter. And then also she introduced me to all the fine wools and all about spinning. And yes, I'm very fortunate to have met Lindsay accidentally through work. Literally, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, Lindsay, literally we met because I was I talk very loud, and we're in a quiet workspace, and I was talking very loudly about crocheting, and I had this idea that I wanted to patent for crochet. Still a good idea, but I have no interest in doing it. And it's a product. It's not, you can't patent crochet stitches or patterns. It's a product for crocheters that I have an idea for. But she overheard me yelling about that at work to anyone that would listen. And it's hey, so you crochet. Instant best friends. But where was I going with that? The crochet along or the knit along. I jumped in my third or fourth project. I jumped into a mystery knit along for a lace shawl, and I used Laceway alpaca, which is sticky, and it was the biggest struggle and the worst decision I could have made, but I enjoyed it because it was challenging. I could have never made it through if it wasn't for Lindsay, because I'd literally go to her house on the weekends and be I messed up and I don't know what I did. Can you help me? Because I had never done a yarn over and knit two together. And with all the stitches of a shawl on needles scrunched up with the alpaca, sometimes the yarn over would slip over the stitch next to it. And I didn't know how to identify that was happening. Oh, it was a mess. Oh, it was a mess. Same Catherine. I cast on my first sock a few days ago and have been on the struggle bus. I'm crochet is so much easier. Yes, and that makes you more likely to quit, which is why I quit several times. I quit learning to knit because I'm I can just crochet this. I can. I don't need to be struggling like this. I know how to crochet. I don't need to learn how to knit. But eventually, I really wanted a stockinette sweater, so I learned. I throw the bird with both crochet and knitting. I hold my yarn all wrong, or maybe I do it on purpose. Well, there's nothing wrong with doing it the wrong way, right? There's no right way as long as you're performing the stitch in a way that creates the stitch that you want, really. Then, because it all comes down to instruction. If you're going to follow a pattern and it says this is the single crochet, your single crochet should look like a single crochet. Otherwise, your project's not going to turn out the way the pattern intended it to be. But whether you hold the yarn in a way to create that, or you do something funny in a way to create that, it doesn't matter. Did you make the stitch or not? I've seen so many different ways from teaching beginning knitting and crochet. I've seen so many ways of holding the yarn, holding the hook. I've seen knitters learn to crochet that are throwers, and they crochet the same way. They hold their yarn, their hook in their right hand, and they throw their yarn with their right hand. Very strange. I'd never seen that before. But what's wrong with that if that's what works and that's comfortable for you? Lindsay, one of my favorite stories. Yeah, I'm glad you don't mind me sharing. Sometimes it just happens like that. Lindsay was your fiber dealer. She was more than my fiber dealer. She was my full-on gateway person. Like, because she's the one that taught me all about like everything to get me to what I'm interested in today. Like, I think I eventually would have found these things and learned these things, but Lindsay would like open my eyes to this whole new world I didn't even know existed. Of course, you jumped into a difficult bag. Exactly. Like, I just am attracted to that for what it's just me, I guess. There's too many beautiful socks and colorwork sweaters and cowls out there, right? But it'll take it easy with plenty of breaks. I don't want to end up resenting it. Absolutely. Take breaks, be patient with yourself, let things go when they're not serving you, and you'll get to where you want to be and where you're going. That's something I've been like working on lately, is thinking about like, I'm spending time doing this. Why? Like, making sure there's a good why behind what I'm doing. Does this actually get me towards where I want to be? Like, is there a reason, like, especially when you're doing something you don't want to do, it's like, is this necessary to get the outcome that I'm looking for? Or like, is this really not necessary and I've just committed to it and now I feel like I can't back out because I've committed? So that's something I've been working on. If no one ever did something wrong, there would not be all of these modern crochet designs you see all over the place. I agree with that too. Exploring new things, doing things the way that they're not traditionally done. The only problem is you start to learn why things are done traditionally. Like my sweater with 2 inches of ease, I now understand why most sweaters have 4 inches of ease. And I like to learn that way though. Like, I like to really explore the boundary and then learn why the boundary's there. That's how you can break boundaries in ways that you need to. Yes, my knitting friend is learning crochet and she throws her yarn just like you said. Her chains are very loose, but overall it isn't bad. Oh yeah, and then like with that too, you know, especially with teaching and learning, the tension is the biggest problem starting out. And unfortunately with crochet, you have to read your stitches. With knitting, you have to read your stitches, but it's not as difficult. And with crochet, needing to read those stitches and your tension being inconsistent, that makes it very difficult to know where you're going, where you're supposed to be going. But if you just understand you're learning, be patient with yourself and practice, that tension does even up over time. Even for somebody that's throwing their yarn, they find a way to gain an even tension within their own hands. And when I was teaching, I'd always remind them, like, your hands, they're learning. They don't know how to do what you're asking them to do. Be patient with them as they figure it out. They will figure it out. Just keep trying. She was your Reggie. Exactly. Without the Yarniversity from Reggie about different fibers, I probably would not be as knowledgeable as I am with yarn. I love my bougie yarns. What can I say? Exactly. Everybody has their person that has opened up their excitement for something they didn't know about. My first socks have no heels. Oh, they were test knits and they were a stretch for me, but not too much, so I got them done. Interesting. So I've seen some sock patterns with no heels that are meant to be like tube socks. So they're just like really long tubes. And I've seen it. Heather of Bunnyfish Crafts a couple years ago, I think, was knitting socks for her children that were tube socks. And the whole idea is that if you're knitting tube socks with no heel for a foot that's growing, the heel will hit at different spots as they grow, so it won't wear out as quickly, because that not having a traditional heel put into your sock means in order for that sock to fit you, it's really stretching and stressed in that area of your heel because it's not contouring that heel. So it's going to wear out faster. But doing it for children makes more sense. I do remember that, and I found that really interesting. I knit a tube sock for my daughter a couple years ago. I had leftover yarn that I knit a sock for myself. And then I knit her a tube sock, but I didn't make the circumference thick enough. That's the problem. So her foot got longer, but also got wider. So she outgrew them in width before length, which I had not considered, but she never did wear through the heel. Got to get to my million hobbies. See you next week. Bye, Acela. Thanks so much for stopping by. That's interesting, Catherine. Yeah, it is interesting. There's not a lot of sock patterns without heels in them. All right, moving on. Check it out. Check it out. I have a minor, like a little mini book haul. And they're not reviews because I haven't read the books, but I just got them in this week, so I'm very excited about them. I mentioned to you guys, I picked up some books about fiber and fleece and farming. So I did put links down below to all the books that I picked up in case you're interested. They're a little pricey, especially this one. This is the Fleece and Fiber Source Book, and I have been meaning to own a copy of this book for years. Speaking of Lindsay, she's actually the one that don't you still own this book, Lindsay, or did you never own it and I just thought you did? I feel like she's the one that showed me this book, told me about this book. It is amazing. It is a source book with more than 200 fibers from animals that can be spun into yarn. And what's really great about it, and it has your bison and musk oxen in here, Lacey. There are pictures of all the breeds, samples of the fiber washed, spun, knit, and it talks about the history of the sheep and what else? I mean, like everything you would want to know as far as the basics of everything. And like even here in this category of other sheep breeds, like this is Polworth. I love Polworth. Look at all the different color examples they have. They talk about dyeing it, prepping it, and spinning it tips, knitting, crocheting, and weaving with it. So Polworth is best known for its softness, fiber length, bounce, and drape. And I couldn't agree more. It has some amazing bounce. But I'm really excited to have this as a resource book. It's one that's fun to thumb through and get to know more about specific breeds that you want to learn more about that specific breed. Or if you're doing a breed study, or if you're just curious in general, it's a great source book. It's a great resource. So I'm glad to have access to that in my Fiber Arts library. Oh, and so this is by Robson and Icarius are the authors. Then I also got my hands on the Spinner's Book of Fleece. So this is a breed guide, right, for choosing and spinning. So this one is more focused on how to use the breed-specific fibers. And so it goes into more detail about using the breed-specific fibers for your yarn than this one does. This is more about the sheep and the history and all the details about the sheep. This is more about using the fleece. So I'm really excited about having this book as well. So this is by Beth Smith, The Spinner's Book of Fleece. And it says on here, the perfect fiber for every purpose. And let's see. I mean, they've got, of course, the breeds in here, like Romney and a picture of the Romney sheep, as well as, and this is in the long wools category. They've got showing hand-spun Romney socks, swatches, yarn, sampling Romney. There's a gorgeous cable. Look at that. A gorgeous cabled swatch in the Romney yarn. So, and I mean, it's got details, right? 3-ply spun from the fold, 3 and 4-ply, 2-ply worsted, and like right on to Lincoln. So I'm really excited to look through this and learn more about the different breeds, the characteristics of their wools, and ways they can be created into different yarns for different purposes. You guys know I love to get nerdy about that. So I'm very excited about having this book in my collection as well. This one I only thumbed through, and it was suggested when I was buying my other books. This is Raising Animals for Fiber. So just thumbing through it, it is organized by different animals. Like there's this really cool chart right here, comparing sheep, goats, alpacas, Angora rabbits, in categories of like their size, their lifespan, average purchase price, their personality, handleability, minimum number of animals needed, difficulty level, environment, hardiness, all the things that you'd want to know about raising animal for fiber. They have, I know some of the basics about these animals and their fibers, but not about raising them and caring for them. And then also, like, how much does it cost to own these animals? Like, they're not cheap. And there is, Where is it? Oh my gosh, look at these Angora goats. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. I saw it in here as I'm thumbing through. Housing and fencing, shearing, about the sheep's wool. And they have that for all of the animals. So that's all about the sheep. They've got it broken down by animal type. Like, know your alpaca lingo. There's a page full of terms like, what's a camel lid? What's a curl? What's a gelding? What's a hembra? What's wakaya? So, yeah, I'm very excited to learn more about each of the animals too. I've always said I would really enjoy to have some Angora rabbits, but we'll see. Maybe one day. But I feel like this is a really great starting point for the basics of what it's like to raise animals for fiber. What I was looking for is there's a cost breakdown of how much it generally costs to raise the animals. So you have an idea of what you're getting into investment-wise. And then this one I actually started last night, and this one is intense. So this is small-scale livestock farming, a grass-based approach for health, sustainability, and profits by Carol Icarius. Now, I'm wondering, is that Icarius the same? And I'm probably saying that wrong. Is that the same Icarius on the Fleece and Fiber source book? I need to go find out now. Like, what? But anyways, yes, it is. I did not even realize this, but Amazon suggested this one, probably because I bought this one by Carol Icarius. Carol Icarius. So this makes me love her even more reading this book, knowing that she was partnered in this book. This book is amazing. It is like way over my head, and I'm learning a ton. But it's a holistic approach to farming, and like I really am enjoying this holistic planning management that's laid out in this book. It is very much based on the environment and realistic goals. And there's a lot of interviews of farmers of all sizes. So in the book, they define farms that make gross over 100,000 in receipts as a large farm, and in 1,000 farms that gross under 1,000 but more than 1,000 are considered small farms. And like, it's just, there's so much information packed in here and it's based on the United States. I should preface that too. It's the United States. And I think all of the farmers interviewed are in the United States, but it talks about the history of livestock farming, the industrialization of it, how it's become what it's become today, how it's kind of making this, how small farms are able to be profitable because of how things have changed, taking a holistic approach to it, but also like understanding like farming is not something that like you just quit your day job and do because if it was that profitable, everybody would be farmers. But there are ways to make it at least pay for itself or bring you a little bit of side profit on the side, but it requires a lot of work. So you have to be passionate about the livestock that you own, which is great for me because I'm very passionate about sheep. But yeah, I've been learning so much about this book. Last night I was reading about all of the, like, there's so much to learn just about grazing pastures. And I was getting sleepy when I got to the part about animal units per acres and stuff. And I was just like, I don't want to do any math. I'm going to bed. But I really like it literally starts, because I started from the beginning. It literally starts with the ecosystem cycle. And there's this amazing story in here about how when she bought this farm, there were pigeons. And the neighbor said, oh, you better shoot those pigeons because they're going to overrun and they are riddled with diseases and they could get your livestock sick. And that's not untrue. But she's like, we couldn't pull ourselves to shoot them off and peg them down. So over the couple years, we got more and more pigeons to the point there were so many pigeons at our farm. We did start to consider kind of thinning the herd. She's like, but before we actually got around to doing it, a great horned owl showed up in the barn and started picking off the pigeons and stayed around until the pigeon population was almost completely gone. A few pigeons were able to hide and stay alive. The owl left. And then the pigeon population was able to start climbing again, and just kind of that natural cycle of like, if you can manage things in a way that is beneficial to the environment you're trying to maintain, there's so much to learn. So this is the one that I've really been like reading and learning about. There's areas that I feel more comfortable in my knowledge of, like when it comes to like the consumer ends of things. I'm very comfortable with like processed fleece and selling fleece and marketing and finance, but when it comes to the environment standpoint of something like this, I am loving learning all about this. There are terms that are thrown out that are just like go right over my head because I have zero experience with farming, but I'm about to learn. So that is my fiber arts and farming book haul. There is one more book that I bought that hasn't arrived yet, and that's Yarna Texture, I think by Jillian Moreno. So that one will be here, and I'll share it off when it gets here. But let me catch up with you guys. I know I've just been like so focused on these books. Lindsay, sheep books. Yes, I love sheep books. I thought you owned that book. I'm pretty sure that's the first place I ever saw it in person. And I've just been meaning to get myself a copy of the Fleece and Fiber source book ever since. VJ. I just recently learned there's a breed of sheep that has hair, not wool. Yeah, yes, and yes. I don't know which breed you're talking about, but I know that, so my friend Lori, she's the kids' grandma's, you'll see her in here with us some mornings. She usually goes out herding on Saturday mornings, so she usually misses my lives. Training her border collies to be better sheep herders. So, but she has a couple Shetland sheep that some of their well, maybe it wasn't a full Shetland, because I know at some point she's had some crosses too. So maybe I shouldn't speak on that until I know more for sure, because I can't remember exactly. But I do know that there are some sheep that's fleece is more like hair and not like wool. Lacey, that book is seriously amazing. They really all are. I'm sure because I'm behind in chat, you're probably talking about the Fleece and Fiber source book, but it really is. I highly, highly, highly recommend it to anyone that gets into spinning and wants to do breed studies. This is a great book for learning more, doing breed studies and learning more about breed-specific fibers. And I guess even if you're not into spinning, but it is harder to get your hands on breed-specific yarns. They do exist, especially if you go to local fiber shows, you'll find them there, very breed specific wools. But like, as you learn more about it, you learn that merino is everybody's preferred wool because of its fineness. So most wools are merino. And then if they're not merino, they're some kind of cross blend of wools. So they're unlabeled, but there are really nice wools that aren't necessarily merino soft that are still really nice. Yes. Hi, Nancy. How are you today? Was there a chapter in the musk ox in that book? Asking for a friend, but seriously amazing. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull it up because yes. Bison, musk oxen, yaks, and more. Probably in the back. See if I can't get you a picture of your... I honestly don't know the difference between musk oxen and bison. Musk oxen and bison. I'm trying to. Here is our bison. Oh, look at him. And his dark, gorgeous fiber. And then here is the musk ox. It's a very tiny picture. Very similar looking. So I have to do some research into the difference between the two. Is there a bigger picture here? But I mean, like, literally all this is the backstory to musk ox. Like, they were native to parts of Alaska. They were hunted to extinction in Alaska in the 1850s. But thankfully, populations survived in Greenland and parts of Canada. And they were reintroduced to Alaska from Greenland in 1931 when 34 animals were delivered to what is now the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. Like, who doesn't want to know that? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Here's the musk ox fiber. Oh, look at that. You can just tell by the picture of it. Look at that. Oh, I love it. So yeah, I'm so happy to have this book. Catherine, talk to your local feed store about what vitamins and minerals you'll need to supplement for in your area. All lands are different. Exactly. That's what I love about the small scale livestock farming, and is it mentions stuff like that you need to consider, like your region, what's available to you, what are you missing, what do you need. It's a lot. It's a lot when you are coming from a place of knowing nothing. The Yarn Geek's mother, Kitty, used to raise sheep in Arkansas. That is so cool. What kind of sheep? I think I heard Ginger talk about this once in one of her lives. Yes, keeping a natural ecosystem is so important. Yeah, I still have a lot to learn about grazing. I didn't realize like how easy and important it is not to overgraze or undergraze, because that will stunt growth or deteriorate the land. It just like so much. That book is like a manual, a how-to manual. I love it. Exactly. I admire you for embarking on such a large adventure. Wow. Yeah, it's very exciting. And this book too, like, so the thing that's great about the author for this book is that she talks about how she didn't have a farming background. She just had this longing and this interest. And so it's written from a perspective for somebody who doesn't have a history of family farming, but is interested in that type of lifestyle, what it looks like, what it means, how to do it really. And so that's really cool. And she does mention, like, start small, let your farm grow with you. So that's what I'll be doing. Like, I won't be having any livestock, maybe chickens when we move in, but no, I'm definitely not getting sheep probably the entire first year that we're there, because the house needs a lot of renovations, and it gives us time to properly set up the pastures before they show up. We can make sure that the grass is perfect for them, and as well as the fencing. There's a really funny story in there about people who bought livestock before their fences were really set up well, and that's just I feel like that's a no-brainer, but I think you just get so excited, you know. There really is a chapter on my chunky babies. They are so cute, but they scare the crap out of me, Lacey. I feel a deep dive coming on for me. I just love those precious beasts. You watch it. Lacey retires, moves to Alaska, herds bison and musk oxen. Does the Angora from goats feel like the Angora from rabbits? I don't think so, but I could see how it would feel similar because of how soft it is. So I always get this backwards, so I don't want to mess it up, but Angora goats make mohair, right? I get them backwards. Let me see. Because the names don't always make sense. Angora goats. Yep. Angora goats produce a luxurious fiber called mohair. So mohair is very different than Angora rabbits. Angora rabbits is like a very fine, very, very fine, thin, almost like if you think of like when you pet a rabbit, right? Like very fine and soft fibers. Whereas mohair, it's soft, but it's stronger. So it loses a little bit of that softness. And that's what gives you that fuzzy halo on those yarns. So yes, they do feel very different. But that's what's frustrating for me with the names, because you think, oh, Angora goat, Angora rabbit, they must be similar. They're not. Angora goat makes mohair. And then I often get that confused with cashmere. But there's cashmere goats. So cashmere comes from cashmere goats. Mohair comes from Angora goats. Thank you, Lacey. Yes, the bunny Angora is softer than the Angora goat. Yes. Did you say you were thinking about some rabbits? I've been thinking about rabbits, Lacey. So a couple years ago, there was a fiber festival actually in my town. I think they tried to get it up and running. It just I don't think it ever came back. I don't know why. But when I went there was a gal who was an Angora rabbit breeder, and she had the rabbits there, and I wanted one so bad. But I don't I don't live in a place that I can really have them. But on this farm, I think that I could create a place to have them. So, but again, it's one of those things that I have to start small and grow slow. So I don't know what the timeline would be, but I could see myself very happily being an Angora rabbit owner. I am officially looking for investors for my Alaskan retirement to the buffalo and musk oxen farm. Oh, I love that, Lacey. Abundant Permaculture, Justin Rhodes, and Polyface Farms, Joel Salatin are great resources. Okay, thank you, Catherine. I'm going to write that down because I hardly ever remember to come back to these lives to scroll through to find things. So thank you for the recommendations. Polyface Farms. That's the other thing, is eventually we'll have to come up with a farm name, and I'm still not there yet. The one that I did really like is already taken, so I can mention that. My partner's last name is Stevens, and there's a creek on the property, so I really like the flow of Stevens Creek, but it's already taken, so I can't. But we'll see. The right name will come along when it's time. If I invest, Lacey, will I get fiber yarn for life? Oh my gosh, I feel like this is a Kickstarter happening right now. Like, what are the Kickstarter perks? Do you get to have one of the muskox named after you? Okay. So that was my check it out. Oh, one other thing I was going to mention is I was tagged by Kim of Mocha, Unapologetically Mocha Crochet and Crafts, for the Made with Love tag, which is a hashtag going around on YouTube for makers. So I watched Kim's and she tagged me. So I actually filmed mine, and that'll be coming out on Tuesday, so you can watch out for that. And if you're interested, if you go back to Kim's, she's got the hashtag under her video. If you click on that hashtag, it will show you everybody else that's been participating in the tag. It was originally created by Made by Mimi. I saw Marquita's version, and I think there's a couple other tags that have been added that I haven't watched yet. So that'll be coming out on Tuesday. And then moving on to Let's Chat. So I've already chatted with you guys quite a bit about me learning to farm. So Let's Chat is like the more less fiber arts related chat. So definitely let me know, how are you guys doing? How has your week been? Have you done anything new, exciting? Are you laying low, having a restful week? Let me know how your week has been, and I will tell you about mine. So the house, we're still just waiting. We should close on the house next Thursday. So by the time I see you guys next Saturday, the farm will be ours, which is super exciting. Oh, I cannot wait. I'm so excited. I'm going to go in, get a bunch of video, and then we'll start renovations. The very first thing we have to do is get the roofs done on both the house and the workshop. So I know we're gearing up to have that ready right from the get-go. So that's super exciting. And then what else? I have everything, so I don't forget what I want to talk about, but I moved my notebook. It's usually right here. My workout program. I am so sore. My calves, my arms, my legs, my abs. So I finished the MBF workout on Beachbody On Demand, which stands for Muscle Burns Fat. And it was amazing. It was a 21-day workout. I did it over 22 days because I missed a day. But I am in such better shape after doing it. I did the whole weigh yourself before, weigh yourself after, measure yourself before, measure yourself after. So I gained 1.5 inches overall, and I gained 0.5 pound. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So I actually, when I measured, I lost 0.5 inch in my bust, which isn't surprising. And then I gained 1 inch in each of my thighs. And I gained 0.5 pound of muscle. My scale actually did say, when I got on it at the end of the 3 weeks, that my fat percentage was the same. Well, not percentage, but weight. And I gained 0.5 pound of muscle mass, which explains why my thighs each got 1 inch bigger. So putting on the muscle, bulking up, and feeling strong has been great. I went from doing 5-pound weights up to 10-pound weights for the exercises, and I can feel my heart getting healthier and stronger. I can actually see my abs when I flex now, and it feels good. So with that ending, I started the next workout program by Megan, which is MBFA, Muscle Burns Fat Advanced. She's not kidding about the advanced. I was not prepared for this. And she kept saying, oh yeah, this is preparing you for MBFA. When you go to Beachbody's website, they'll tell you, like, here's the most popular programs. MBF shows up, but MBFA does not. And I think it's because there's such a large jump from MBF to MBFA that people quit and they don't do MBFA. And I definitely felt that my first day. The first workout of MBFA, I was not prepared for. I could not keep up with. It is more difficult exercises, more reps, and a faster pace. And while my muscles could keep up, my heart could not. So I frequently would have to slow down and take breaks, which is intimidating. But I kind of readjusted my mindset to be needing to take those breaks and trying to do something you can't is how you get to where you aren't, if that makes sense. So I was like, just take the breaks when I need them, accomplish what I can. I'm pushing myself. And eventually by the end of these 3 weeks, I won't need to stop. And that's the goal. So, but it's really intimidating when you're doing something you can't do. I had to modify most of the exercises because I just wasn't there yet, or the speed was too fast. So, but pushing yourself within comfortability, oh, I'm so excited. So that is what I've been working on with that. Let me catch up with you guys. Lacey says it's pretty easy to raise rabbits, easy compared to livestock or sheep or big animals. Exactly. Yeah, I definitely could see that being a thing, which is why I see myself getting them. The only thing stopping me is I've got cats that are natural hunters and I want them on the farm to help keep the field mice out. But I'm worried about introducing rabbits. I have to make sure that it's done safely so that they aren't killed. Lacey, talk to Seta and the Alaskan Crafter. Maybe you can have a coop. Ooh, who is Seta and the Alaska Crafter? Do we have a contact here? Are we getting you in? You will absolutely get free fiber for life. And yes, there's a level of investor that will get a bull named after them. VJ, that's a good idea. Yay, thank you, VJ. By the next live, Amanda will be an official farmer. Well, I mean, farmland owner. Small, very small farmland, right? Like I'm reading this book and she's talking about people with hundreds of acres. And I'm like, I thought 5 acres of pasture was a commitment. I don't want to own 100 acres. But yeah, I don't know that I get to be called an official farmer until I actually am farming. But I will own a small farm by the next live, yes. I finally got my fingering weight sock test knit done. Woohoo! The worsted weight test knit was way easier on the hands. I could definitely see that. Fingering weight it's just so tiny, and those needles are so tiny to hold on to. I definitely have to give my hands a break when I'm knitting socks, which, Lacey, I'm still knitting your socks. Those are not in the whip pile, completely forgotten. I just chip away at them little by little. Getting close to the heel. I dug up the plunging neckline sweater from... I am determined to finish it. Fingers crossed I can make it wearable. I'm hoping for you. I luckily discovered extensive notes. Oh my gosh, yeah, big thank you to your past self. That is like, I hate keeping notes, but thank goodness that you did. I'm hoping you can bring up that neckline too and it becomes something wearable. Good luck. I really need to get motivated to lose weight again and start working out again, but not motivated. I feel that 1000%. After I had Annie, who is now 1, a little over 1, I kept saying that, like, oh, I need to work out again. Oh, I need to work out again. And then I just kept not doing it. I had no motivation because I get so excited to do so many other things in my day, or I commit to more things than I should in a day, that I just felt like I didn't have time, right? But in reality, you have time for the things that you make time for. I know the spiel, you know? So it has been a very purposeful, like, reminder of the why. Why am I doing this? I want to be healthy. I want to be around for my family, and I love my life. I want to prolong it the best that I can, and I want to be really healthy going into a future pregnancy. So I just, like, keep reminding myself of that every day, especially with this MBA, which is a MBFA, which is a much more difficult program. I'm like, oh, this is going to kill me. I don't want to do it. And then I just hit play and I go. And I remind myself during the workout too, that like, I'm doing my best. And like, my best doesn't look like the people on the screen, but all that matters is that I showed up and I'm doing my best and I will see progress, even if it doesn't feel like it. And the downside is I have to force myself to do it while my daughter naps. It's the only time, because I did work out while she was awake, and it was on core circuit day, and I was trying to do sit-ups, and she would just come over and lay on me. And it was very cute and sweet, but I'm like, this is not a very good workout, trying not to elbow you in the head while you love on me while I try to do my sit-ups. So I do it while she's napping, and sometimes she only naps for 30 minutes, which is the duration of my workout. And so then I end up covered in sweat trying to figure out how to take a shower with her. Are you able to slow down the playback speed? I think so. On after the lives are over. I think so. I've never actually done it, but I think you can. You can't deny it. You are a farmer. It says it in the deed. And take your time. Yes, I am. This week, I finally perfected a personalized for me perfect. Okay, can you share the recipe, Lindsay? I want to know, what is it? Perfectly personalized for me smoothie recipe. That is difficult because, like, I know for me, when it comes to smoothies, I want to add way more sugar than I should have. And then so that I'm trying to find a way to cut sugar, but also make a palatable smoothie. So if you have a recipe that you've perfected, I would be interested to hear what that is. And then the only other thing I was going to talk about for Let's Chat was my obsession with this new show on Netflix. Have you guys seen Murderville? It's one of the best shows I've seen in a while. So it's Will Arnett, and he is like a detective, and he brings on famous celebrities, and he has them improv with him. So it's kind of like a murder mystery story that he's improvising with the celebrity with, and the celebrity has to figure out who the murderer is in the end after interviewing these people. And they make them do ridiculous things, and they don't know that that's what's going to happen, and it is hilarious. They make them dress up in disguise. They put them in awkward situations where they like have an earpiece in their ear, and they're all working with actors. So it's not real people. It's not a prank, but it's like it's an improv of murder mystery stories. And I have just been I've been laughing so hard every single episode. I haven't watched them all yet. I watched like the first 4, who were Sharon Stone, and they had who was the first actor? They had Kumail. I don't remember his last name. His was probably my favorite so far. And the gal from Schitt's Creek, I don't remember her name. And they had the running back, Marshawn Lynch. And yeah, so I really enjoyed that show. Have you guys watched Murderville yet? I think if you like comedies and improv, I think you'll enjoy this one. Oh, you're talking about the MFA, so it's not so fast. I could slow it down, but it's really just the pace of the workout in general. It's not that I can't keep up with the workouts, it's that my body can't keep up with it. Like the pace at which the reps are done is just, my heart gets going too fast. It just raises my heart rate too quickly. And so I have to take breaks, and I can't complete all of the reps that are intended to be repeated because I'm just not at that fitness level yet, despite having successfully completed the first portion MBF. And that's why I think people just quit, because it prepares you, but not enough to be able to keep up. And I think people just get intimidated and they quit. So I'm doing like I've done my entire life with athletics and sports and exercise, which is just like do what I can, push myself to a comfortable limit, and that's it. If I can't keep up, if I can't do the 20 reps in the minute and I only did 10, then I did 10, and next time hopefully I do 12. it just feels intimidating when they're doing it and everyone in the program's doing it, and you're like, what's wrong with me? That reminded me of how I used to work out when I was a stay-at-home mom with the boys when they were little. I used them like weights, kind of safely, of course. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I reminded myself that day. I had to go out and run errands during her nap. And so it just wasn't a possibility the way the day worked. And I was like, working out around her, even if it slows down my workout, is better than not working out at all. And that's what I just kept having to like, I have to do it this way or it's not going to happen. And this is important to me. So I'm going to do it this way. But yeah, it was really cute because I don't lay on the floor very often. And I think she was just like, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to just lay my head right here on your tummy. I love you. Thanks for the rec. I was looking at that show and wondering what it would be like. I love it. I love it. If you like Will Arnett, he's Job in Arrested Development, which I enjoy his humor and his comedy. But they really make it fun by putting these celebrities in these very awkward situations. I enjoyed it. At least it's my type of humor. You've been watching Love is Blind. The Japan edition is incredibly well-paced and adorable. The US edition is a drama train wreck that both fulfill a need. I'll have to check it out. I've heard about Love is Blind. I know a friend of mine watched the US one. So I'll have to actually sit down and see if I can't get into it. But I might start with the Japan edition. I like the love stories more than the drama, although sometimes the drama, like you said, it fulfills a need. 1 cup. Oh, here it is. 1 cup strawberries, 1 cup coconut milk. I do love coconut milk. That's what I put in my coffee. Rolled oats, frozen cauliflower. Interesting. Unsweetened yogurt, chia seeds, sugar, and a splash of honey with a dash of vanilla and cinnamon. Excuse me. That sounds delicious and interesting. I would have never guessed to put frozen cauliflower in there. I've never put cauliflower in a smoothie ever. It does sound like it would taste good though. I'll have to give that a try. Sounds like a good breakfast, honestly. Yeah, I hate typos, man. That sounds like a funny show. I don't really like comedy shows, but I'm watching Discovery of Witches and just finished Reacher and Legion. Oh, all right. So is that show on Netflix or is that a cable show? Those shows, Discovery of Witches and Reacher and Legion. I've been watching Outlander, very violent and steamy. That's like me when I was on my Witcher kick. I like sat down and binge watched The Witcher. When season 2 came out, I binge watched it from the beginning all the way through season 2. Very, very violent and steamy. Very much enjoyed that show. BJ loved the Discovery of Witches, and you're bummed that season 2 is not free. Is it on Amazon then? Because I know Amazon likes to do that. Like, oh, here's the free first season, but you have to pay for the next season. I really like thick smoothies, which is what the cauliflower is for. You need a straw to drink it. Oh, I like that. No, I like thick smoothies too. I prefer them not to be runny. Just make sure not to put broccoli in a smoothie. Ask me how I know. I really like spinach in my smoothies though. Okay, Maud. So broccoli in your smoothie, was it cooked? Was it raw? And is it a flavor thing or a texture thing? I'm curious about this because I like ask me how I know situations. They bring out the best stories. The Witcher was so good. It really is so well done. I really liked it. Having played half of the video game, I did not finish The Witcher because there are parts of the game, which while it has an amazing storyline where you have to make decisions that affect the overall world, which I love games like that, like Fable, there were parts in the game that I felt like just didn't progress the story and they were like just wasting my time. I felt like the developers of the game put situations in there just to increase playtime without actually being a purpose. For example, and this is literally the point that I quit. There had been moments of it up until this point. And it was at the point that I think, I'm trying to remember, because this was back in what, like 2000, early 2010s. A dragon comes and destroys a city. And you kind of black out and you wake up in a snowstorm and you have to walk to the nearest city, and it makes your character walk at the slowest speed ever in an ice storm for like minutes. And I was so mad. I was like, F this game. And I turned it off and I never played it again. But I do remember really loving, they created a game, a card game in the game called Gwent. I loved playing Gwent, and I would travel from city to city to play the people in the taverns to try to get their special cards and stuff. That it is a great game and a great show. Let's see. The broccoli was cooked. I used the head and the texture was off. Oh my gosh. I wonder, yeah, because of the texture of the head, I don't know that like you could even cook that down into something palatable in smoothie form. It was on Discovery, so it is a cable show. I don't have cable, so I used to. I don't currently, so I wonder if that's something I could get my hands on later. Broccoli smoothie with. I second that. Have you ever steamed broccoli and then kept it for leftovers, and the next day it's still good, but it just does not smell right? Discovery of Witches is on Shudder. Oh, and Reacher is maybe Amazon, and Legion. Oh, I thought Reacher and Legion was one name. So Reacher's one, Legion's another. Legion is Hulu. I don't have cable, just a bunch of streaming services. Ooh, maybe it's time for me to get some Shudder. I can't watch horror movies like I used to. I used to watch them all the time as a kid. I wrote a whole like 20-page paper in high school about the history of horror films. I was obsessed. But something changed in my brain when I had children, and I cannot watch horror films the way that I used to be able to. It's like, I just thought there was like a fundamental switch that turned on that was like, nope. But I would do it for something like Discovery of Witches, I think. I could just do it for like a month and binge watch it. I had some leftover broccoli from the day before and thought, why not? I'm definitely going to make sure not to do that. And I still need to I need to get on Wheel of Time. I've been meaning to watch that. I started listening to the audiobooks and enjoyed them, but I get sidetracked and then forget. I don't have Shudder. Is it free, Lacey? And Lacey's saying you can get a week of Shudder for free and binge it. That was my plan, but episodes are still being added, so you're going to cancel when the season's over. That makes sense. Sounds like it's worth it. I wonder, I'll just have to plan a Discovery of Witches week. Wheel of Time is so good. I need more. Also, the costuming in that show. Oh, I'm such a fan of costuming. I want to learn how to sew to make those clothes. So that is what got me interested in sewing clothes, is making like that style of clothes, or like clothes for Renaissance fairs. You can't readily buy those, and I think they're so cool. BJ said, thanks. There was a really good show on Shudder, but I can't remember what it's called. I can watch those shows, but only if it doesn't have kids getting hurt. Yes, stolen kids, kids getting hurt, kids being sad or crying or dying. I can't do it. I stopped watching Walking Dead when they announced they were killing Carl. Yeah, I can't do it. It messes with my head too much because I'm like an emotional viewer. I get attached and I'm like, this is real. I know it's not, but in the moment I'm like, this is real. I'm invested, and it hurts too much. And then I start like thinking like, what if that happened to me? That's it. I'm too much of an empath to watch shows like that. You have the free Disney. I don't pay for TV. You've got Fire Stick and Roku, then downloaded everything I could for free. That's the way to go, honestly. Cable companies like stealing money. I don't have free Disney, but I do pay for Disney Plus, and we have watched Encanto like 20 times this week. I love Encanto, and the songs in it are so like they get stuck in your head, and you just be walking around. We don't talk about Bruno, and it's great because my kids love it too. So we'll make up our own versions. Like we call Annie Guppy, and we'll say we don't talk about Guppo. And, just have fun with it. But if you haven't seen Encanto and you have Disney Plus, you have to see it. It is so good. So good. All right, you guys, I need to wrap up today's live. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really enjoy this Saturday morning with you all and spending some time with you, sharing what I've been working on, hearing what you've been working on and about your week. I will be back next Saturday morning for another live stream, another podcast episode. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And until next time, guys, happy crafting. Bye.